Today I'm showing you how to make a chocolate cake from scratch that's quicker and easier than a box mix. To start off, we're going to go ahead and add a cup of flour to our sifter. You want to make sure you sift your dry ingredients. So we've got a cup of flour, and then to that we're going to add 2.5 tablespoons of cocoa powder. So make sure it's cocoa powder and not hot chocolate mix, because they are different. And then we're going to go ahead and sift those together into our large bowl. This is a really easy cake mix. It's basically throw everything into a bowl and mix it up, which is super easy. We've got 2 eggs, a cup of sugar, a cup of oil. The original recipe that I got this from called for melted butter, but I prefer to use oil instead, and it just makes a better cake. I've then added some vanilla essence, and now we're gonna add half a cup of milk. What we're gonna do next is, now that we've got everything in our bowl, we're gonna go ahead and mix it on medium speed for 2 minutes. Make sure it's medium speed and only for 2 minutes, otherwise you'll get a tougher cake, and what we want is a moist, fluffy cake. We then have a lined and greased 9-inch tin. You can use round or square. I just really like this tin. It's a op shop or thrift store find that I found a few years ago, but I love it. It's one of my favorite baking tins. Then we're going to throw that into a 180-degree oven for 30 minutes. You'll know when it's done if you can poke a skewer and it comes out clean. And then we're going to cool that for a little while and turn it out onto a cooling rack. We're going to peel off that baking paper, and then we're going to allow it to cool completely before we go ahead and start icing. For our icing, we've got a cup of icing sugar, a tablespoon of cocoa powder, 2 teaspoons of butter, and then we're going to add to that some boiling water. So usually you would have to melt your butter first. At least for the way that I do this icing, you have to melt the butter first. I prefer just to put boiling water in with the butter and then have the boiling water melt it, and by the time that the butter's melted, the water's cooled down. So it's just a way that I find it easy to melt the butter for the icing. We're going to add the melted butter and water to our icing sugar and cocoa powder, and we're just going to mix that until we get a beautiful paste. If it's too thin, add a little bit more icing sugar. If it's too thick, add a little bit more water. We're then going to go ahead and ice our cake. You'll notice my cake is still upside down. I actually ice my cakes upside down because you've got the nice flat bottom that you can ice. It just makes it a little bit nicer for presentation. Doesn't really matter, that it still tastes good if you ice it the other way. I just find it looks a little bit nicer when I ice it upside down, and you don't have to worry about the divots that form when you've baked it. So the last thing that I'm doing with this cake is I'm going to go ahead and throw in some sprinkles just to give it a little pop of color there. And really, after this, the only thing that you need to do is go ahead and eat it. Matt and I really enjoy this cake recipe. I also gave some to our neighbors, and they said it's the best chocolate cake that they've had, which was really nice to hear. As always, a link to the full recipe is in the description. I hope you like this recipe. I hope you make it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.